Hey folks, this is your favorite sorcerer, already is so Pacts, and in today's video I want to share my thoughts and insights about pacts with spirits, entities, demons, and angels. You can you can create pacts with pretty much all entities in existence. Now, the purpose of the pact should be clear in one way or another. I mean, usually when people turn to magic, they will do that for the accomplishment of a very specific goal in the outside world. Or maybe even more general in terms of, I want to be this, or I want to have this, and whatnot, right? What is often misunderstood and not talked about is that there is a transformation that must take place within the person so that they can receive the gift of the spirit. Now, in our society, in which we're used to instant gratification and magic pills and whatnot, this is not necessarily something that people want to hear, but it is important to understand, because if you really want the results that magic brings or can bring you, you have to do what it takes. But that can be fun. It doesn't have to be, tiresome or painful. So let me lay out my view on how a pact works, and years of personal experience, as well as working with thousands of people and teaching them how to do that themselves. I've come to the following conclusion. Magic is another form of communication. All right. Now, when we're talking about communication, I'm not just talking about verbal exchange. Communication at its fundamental level is an exchange of energy. And that energy could contain ideas, which it usually does. So communication, we could say, is the transfer of one idea from one consciousness to another consciousness. Okay. And communication also includes a specific cycle, because this was just one part of it. Because if the communication is perfect, the idea that was in the head of this one person is being communicated very, very clearly through the communication line, and it is then copied in the mind of the recipient. And the second part then of that cycle is an answer. So there will be a slight, first the person will copy, and then they will send back their answer. And if it is sent well, it will be copied here. Now we have closed the communication cycle. When it comes to communication itself, it is usually linked up with something that we call affinity and reality. What does that mean? Let's define affinity. Affinity is the degree of liking somebody, having empathy for somebody. It is not necessarily love, even though you can use this, what I'm going to go into, for seduction, of course, as well. But affinity is can be defined as the degree to which you like somebody. You like them. And you can already see the connection between communication and liking somebody, because if you don't understand somebody, there are not a lot of chances that you're going to like them. As you improve the communication, you will increase and improve the affinity, and you will like them more. And then the third part is reality. As you improve the communication, as you continue to communicate, and as you continue to communicate, the communication will get better. And with that, the affinity will increase, and with that, there's going to be a common reality. And once again, as you increase all of those, or if you increase one of those, you will increase the other two. So just by communicating with something or somebody, you will increase your affinity with it, your familiarity with it, your the degree to which you are comfortable with it, and eventually it will create a common reality. Now, usually we only understand communication through the lens of human interaction. But this model of communication can be applied universally to anything and everything. So, the way I invite you to see the mind is an interface between your spirit and the physical world. Okay? But this interface, your mind, which is not in your brain or in your nervous system, it is actually sort of like an electromagnetic data bank around your body that has an infinite or near infinite storage capacity and is connected to thought forms and information that is also linked up with images and sensations. So when you remember something, what you're doing is you're activating a file in this invisible data bank around you. It's almost like you're tapping into a Wi-Fi, just like your phone or computer tapping into Wi-Fi. You're using one specific, frequency or address to tap into a specific content, information, data. And this is exactly how your mind works. But the mind is a little bit more powerful because it's actually a quantum computer. Okay. But nonetheless, your brain and nervous system are actually just the hardware that uses the information that is around you in your aura. Now, this is very subtle and non-physical, and it is also interfacing with other dimensions. And we're talking about other dimensions. We're talking about, among others, the so-called astral plane or spirit world. So, thought forms exist in this more subtle plane that your mind can also interact with, right? Now, when it comes to the mastery of a specific subject, for example, using the image that I just described, you can see that as your communication line or the quality of your communication line with a specific subject. There is, let's talk about investing or something like that. Investing is a certain skill set, and it is an art, and it is something that you need a lot of time to master. But what is the primary difference between somebody who's not good at that versus somebody who's good at it? Here's the subject, here's the mind of the individual, of the person. Now, the person that is not good at it doesn't even have a communication line with that. They don't know the terms, they don't know the terminology, and they don't know the interconnectedness between the terms. They don't understand the system of that art of investing. Somebody that is good at it has a communication line in their mind. They have a communication line with that thing. And what did I say about communication? As you communicate with something, you increase your affinity with it, and eventually you will share the same reality. Okay? And it's going to be part of your working knowledge. It's going to become second nature. It's something that is just part of you. So it's very, very far away. Then you start your communication with it. You create a communication line, and through communication, it gets closer and closer and closer. Now, when it comes to communication with a subject, such as investing or whatever, it's ascending back and forth of energy, which means a lot of time spent on the subject. You work with it, you study it, you digest it. That's energy, you see? And the energy then creates the common reality and eventually becomes yours. You get really, really good at it. And this is how it works with every other thing as well. How can you use that for psychic seduction, for example? Well, you have, let's say a person is not in a relationship with you, or there's no romance going on, and you want to change that through psychic seduction. What you would do is, in the beginning, you don't have a good communication line with them, or no communication line at all. All right. Now we can communicate psychically, so you can psychically create a communication line with them, and then begin to send energy back and forth. Now, of course, it gets a little bit more complicated than that because there are techniques for all of that, but the principle is exactly that. You create a communication line with the person, and through energy and psychically, they will communicate back. They're not cut off from you. So you have the influence here. So you facilitate that psychic communication, and through more communication, more affinity, and eventually they will share the same reality. The highest form of sharing reality is actually sharing the same physical space. So in psychic seduction, that would translate into, you know, intercourse. Right? But it's going to start as, you know, you not even being in their reality. And you're going to continue, and it's going to turn into interest, and it's going to turn into fascination, liking you, and eventually it's going to turn into a really, really strong desire and, intimacy. That's what we call psychic seduction. Do we want to call that love? I have a different conception of love. Love is something impersonal for me. Now, I could go into the subject in other videos, but when it comes to love, my concept of love is something, like I said, impersonal. And as soon as there's, obviously you can feel love for somebody that you're in a romantic relationship with. However, in the realm of sexuality, procreation, which is usually part of this field of psychic seduction, we all know that it's not pure. Okay, what do they say? That everything's fair in love and war. Was that the thing? I'm sure you get what I'm trying to communicate here. It is anything but pure oftentimes, right? And so what I'm trying to say is, as you create a communication line and send energy through that communication line, automatically the affinity is going to increase, and with that, the reality, and with that, you're going to either master a subject, you're going to be able to seduce anyone that you want. And now, let's talk about pacts, because how does that tie in with pacts? When you create a pact with an entity, you usually will do that not just for small things. You will do that for really the mastery of a certain subject, or a really transformative thing in the outside world, right? Just to, if you just want to manifest little things here and there, if you want to become successful in your career, if you want more money, if you want, we all know what people come to for magic, right? It's either revenge, or it's love, it's wealth, and sometimes it's also health, right? But that's very few. So if you want all those things, and it's just a one-time thing, and you want it fast, hire a magician that can get that done for you. All right. If you don't want to do the work yourself. Now, I'm primarily talking to the people that want to learn how to become magicians themselves. So for you, it is important to understand that the work with spirits, and being effective at it, will require you to create the communication line with all of those entities, but not to the extent that you're completely intertwined with that force. No, but what that means is you have to expand your consciousness first, right? Most people don't have a clear communication line with anything that is not physical. This is also why they feel lonely, by the way, right? If you would look at the person that has, let's say, a limited expansion of consciousness. Like the average human being has a very limited expansion in their consciousness, and that is reflected in their communication lines. So they can't communicate with the psychic world, they can't communicate with spirits, they can barely communicate with people. This is why they feel misunderstood and lonely, you see. Even if they like, how many people are married or in very, very close romantic relationships, but they feel lonely, you know? Ever had that experience? You're around people, but you feel lonely. You even have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you feel lonely. You can't. Your family doesn't understand you. Why is that? Well, it's because the person is psychically cut off. They can't. Don't have good communication lines with people, and they don't have the ability to transfer what's actually going on within them to other people, and so on and so forth. Right. Now, as a magician, of course, you also have, kind of like the responsibility to improve the communication lines, the psychic communication between you and the people around you. So that's your responsibility because they can't do that. And it's in your own best interest, because the better communication you have with the people that are important in your life, the better you will feel and the better your life's going to go. Now, as a magician, when you start working with spirits and archetypes, you know, planetary magic, demonic magic, any magical system is a pantheon of archetypes. And the first step is to expand your consciousness so that you create a communication line with all of those. You know, Isis, you know, Osiris, and so on and so forth. And now this process that I described can begin. The sending back of energy, and this archetype will, of course, be more powerful and more developed than your personal consciousness. But the contact and then the creation of the communication line is going to transform you, you see, and you're going to grow through that process. But at the same time, it's going to allow you to work with the energy of that being, and you can use your connection to that spirit to cause certain things to happen in the outside world. This is crucial for magic. And how do we expand our consciousness so that we're able to create those communication lines in the first place? We do energy work, we do chakra work, we meditate, we have a specific lifestyle, and we study in a certain way. All of that, of course, I teach my students. Now, what is a pact then? A pact is done for the mastery of a specific purpose. Okay? So see it like a mentorship. Let's say you have a problem. You run a business and you call a consultant. He briefs you on, or you brief him on your problem, and he's going to give you a outline on what he's going to do. And you tell him, yes, please do that for me. And he goes about and fixes the problem for you. That's using a spirit to make something happen for you. On the other hand, you want to become a billionaire, and you call you get a billionaire mentor, and you spend a lot of time with that guy. He teaches you everything. You're with him, and through osmosis, you acquire that skill. A lot of things that can't even be verbalized, but they will become part of you, and you will attain the same skill set, and eventually you're going to turn into that billionaire, of course. Right? This is a pact. So it's the degree and the intensity of communication and the shared reality that makes the difference between those two. Okay. So to wrap up this video, because I've already spent almost 20 minutes talking about this stuff. To wrap up this video is, what I want you to take away from it is that communication is universal. Communication and the quality of your communication line will determine to what extent you're able to control spirits and work with them. And this is also the solution to psychic seduction, almost all problems in your life, as well as how to get a pact to work. So, if you want me to talk more about this, if you have questions, don't hesitate to comment under this video. I'm going to do some more videos in the future, of course, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.